Again. Alright, so we have made it through the identification of roots, and hopefully by now you are very good at identifying the three-letter root of any word. So now we have to put those roots into practice, and we are going to begin with the Arabic verb, because our takeaway today is that the Arabic verb is the base for all other words. In Arabic, they consider the verb to be the most important part of speech, and it's what you will base everything else on. Now, most of what you're going to see here today will be review for you. I hope it is, and I hope you know this already. However, don't skip it, because you will be tested on all of this. You have to be very solid on all the conjugations and the forms of the verbs before we go forward into anything else. As I said, this course is going to build upon your existing knowledge. So if you don't have it down solidly, then you have to get it, and that's what we're going to do now. So let's start with a root. Here's our old favorite, darasa. Okay, now as you know, dal, ra, and sin, this three-consonant root has to do with studying, the meaning of studying. Now, it's a convention in Arabic, and one you're going to see throughout the rest of the course here, to refer to any root by the verb form. So you'll hear us talk about this root as darasa. Well, as you know, darasa is actually the verb, and darasa is the huwa past tense form, meaning he studied. In English, we talk about an infinitive, to study. In Arabic, as you know, we don't have such a thing. So it is convention to refer to the verb by the huwa past tense form, darasa. We say that means to study. It actually means he studied. And to refer to the entire root and everything that's derived from this root by this form also, darasa. So just get used to that. Is that okay? Good. Glad to see it. Alright, so today we're going to be talking about three consonant roots. These are known as sound roots in Arabic. Sound meaning like firm, solid. We start to have issues when we have a long vowel in a root, as you will see. And we're talking about what we call Form 1 verbs. Now, what on earth are Form 1 verbs? Form 1 verbs are just the basic verbs with just the three consonants on them. For example, most of the ones you've seen are this form. Darasa, sakana, kataba, kharaja, sharaba, akala, and so forth. Most of the verbs you know are these Form 1 verbs. Now if there is a Form 1, you know what that means. Well, there are other forms as well. So it's important that you know these, the ones we're going to talk about today, that you're very comfortable with them before we start adding on to them. Now you may be saying, wait a minute, I have seen other types of verbs that don't just have three consonants to them. Aha. Well, don't think about those. No, these verbs, these types are all derived from the basic three-consonant root. So in order to understand what this word is, you have to know what the basic three-consonant form is. And so that's why we're going to get those down. So today we will be talking only about these Form 1 verbs. These are those that have the three consonants in them. Is that okay? All right. Rambo says it's good. Okay, so we're not going to go through all the conjugations here today. I think you know all of those and it would be tedious. But if you're a little bit shaky, we're going to ask you to review those, because you will have to pass some review exercises and quizzes before you can go on. Quite simply, if you're not solid on your conjugations, then you're just going to be getting confused as we run into more patterns. I just want to point out a couple of things that are worth knowing as we go on. So one thing about Form 1 verbs, we'll take a typical example here. Edras. You notice it has two syllables. Edras. Why? That's because it has a sukun, huna, over this letter. It is not adaros, it's edras. Boom, boom. 1, 2. Edras. Now, you may be saying, wait a minute, I've heard this pronounced as edrusu. Sometimes I hear edrusu, eskanu, and so forth. Okay, well, this ending on the end of a verb, this is a formal ending. I recommend that you do not include it because for two reasons. Number one, this is very formal sounding. You're going to sound, you know, a little bit silly if you say edrusu. Edrusu fil jama'a. It sounds a little stiff. The other problem is it's not always an u. It depends on the function that the verb is performing in the aspect that it is in the sentence. So if you're going to go around saying edrusu and eskanu, then you also need to know when to say edrasa and eskana or edrus. You have to know those, and it's really not worth knowing at this point. So it is completely legitimate in standard Arabic, and always done in spoken Arabic, to drop this final vowel. This is called the pausal form, meaning we just put sukoon on the end of all these present tense verbs. So edrus, eskun, akal, ashrab, and so forth. And I highly recommend you do that. So that brings us back to this point that these Form 1 verbs all have the 2 syllables, and you need to get used to that. Why? Because if we're telling you that, then it means probably later on you're going to encounter something that doesn't have this pattern. All right? Now, I say this is for most of the patterns, and what the heck? Let's look at them. Okay? You know these. They're familiar. Right? Eskun, teskun, yeskun, teskun, neskun. Hear that rhythm? Now, as we've said many times before, Arabic is a what kind of language? That's right, a poetic language. See, even Rambo knew this one. Okay, it's a poetic language, and this is why the rhythm is very important. Now, English verbs, right, they have all different kinds of syllables. So, edrus, eskun, eshrab, neskun. Notice the pattern, the same rhythm. This is very important. Now, as you know, there are 3 patterns for all verbs. Right? This holds for all verbs in a language. No one in Arabic ever said, hey, wouldn't it be neat if we had 501 irregular verbs? We could make a book and sell it to college students. No one ever said that. They figured every verb should conjugate the same way, and so they do. Now, for every verb, there are 3 patterns which have a suffix on them as well, giving them 3 syllables, like the example, yedrusun. Now, since we tend to have a lot of mistakes on this one, these are worth knowing. They are, of course, the anti-form is teskunin. The hum form, yeskunun. Now think about this. What is hum? Hum is a whole bunch of huas. Hua is yedrus. Hum becomes yeskunun, or yedrusun. Antum, you all, you plural. Well, what is antum? Antum is a whole bunch of antas. So anta teskun, antum teskunun. So please know these. There is no such thing as yedrusum. That's not a conjugation. Okay? So, again, make sure you know those. If you need to review them, keep going over them until you can get them down solidly. But always, it's the same rhythm. Good? All right. This handsome fellow says it's good. Now, let us look briefly at the past tense. The past tense is simpler than the present because it's always easier to live in the past. Okay, now, as we said, we always start with this base form, darasa, or sharaba, kataba. You know that's the huwa past tense form, literally meaning he did, whatever it is. But we use this as the base. Now, what do we notice about the past tense? It has 3 syllables. Now, please be clear on what I said earlier. In the past tense, these endings on the past tense, you must include them. You must say them. This is the only way we can tell the difference between darasta, darasti, darastu. It's the only way we know whom we're speaking to or speaking about. Okay, so in the present tense, they're optional, and really you shouldn't put them on there. In the past tense, they are mandatory, and you already know that. But notice we always have the 3 syllables. So, darasa, hiya darasat. We have 4 letters, but we're still going to have 3 syllables. Ana darastu, right? 4 letters, still 3 syllables. Anta darasta. Notice the rhyme. Anta darasta. Anta darasta. 3 syllables again. Anti darasti. And all of them, right? Same thing. In the past tense, no matter how many we have, how many letters, no matter what person, always 3 syllables. Darastu, darasta, darasti, darasa, darasat, darastum, darasna. It's the rhythm. Should have the rhythm. Always that same rhythm on there. Okay, so this is briefly what you need to know about the basic verb. It's important that you have it down solidly. So if you have to review any of these conjugations, please go back and do so that you can make it through all the exercises. But what we want to be able to do here is when you come across something like these, that you can instantly recognize the conjugations that are added on and get down to your root. So when you see yedrasun, you automatically know the root is darasa. When you see dhahabu, you automatically know the root is dhahaba. Okay, and that's what you need to know. So, thank you very much. On behalf of my good pal Olivia here, we want to wish you the best. And so, we will see you later on. Ma salama.